So a new study on hydroxychloroquine, the forbidden drug, has just been conducted by researchers at St. Barnabas Medical Center in New Jersey. They found that hydroxychloroquine actually can increase survival rates from COVID by up to 200%. Now, you weren't allowed to say that last year for reasons that aren't exactly clear, but apparently it's true. Alex Berenson likely knew that all along. He's the author of Unreported Truths About COVID-19 and Lockdowns, Part 4, Vaccines. He joins us now. Alex, I want to ask you about hydroxychloroquine, but very quickly, what do you make of these numbers out of Israel, the response by Germany, the notations by physicians in Canada, and now our own CDCs that suggest that young men taking this vaccine might be at risk for heart inflammation? How big a story is this?
It's an enormous story, Tucker. It has enormous public health implications. It has enormous political implications, and it has enormous implications for parents and kids. And I think we should remember, it was barely a month ago that the CDC said kids 12 to 15 could get this vaccine. Now, we don't have very much data on that population yet, but there have already been 2 cases of myocarditis after the second dose. And remember, you can't have gotten the second dose more than a few days ago if you're in that population. So the fact that there are already 2 cases popping up is worrisome. And the other thing that's very, very clear when you look at the data is this is totally age stratified. If older people do not seem to have an excess risk for myocarditis after they get the vaccine, younger people do, and the risk appears to get worse the younger kids are. And so why you would push 12 to 15-year-olds to be vaccinated when we know worldwide, when you look, the risk of death from COVID in healthy people under the age of 18 is so low you almost can't measure it, okay? In a lot of countries, it looks like it's like 1 per million. And so there's a real, I don't understand what the public health authorities were thinking and are thinking. But the one thing I'll say, it seems good to me right now that the CDC seems genuinely concerned about this. They've called for this emergency meeting next week, and we'll see what they say. But, you know, you and I and other, you know, sort of voices in the wilderness have been warning about this, just the way we were talking about the lab leak last year, and nobody wanted to listen. And now the chickens are really coming home.
Scary, and at great cost to people and their kids. Tell me about hydroxychloroquine. We haven't been allowed to use that word for some time. I think it was illegal. Now what is it now? What do we know?
Very quickly, I mean, I think this is just part of this bigger puzzle where, you know, Donald Trump last year, you know, liked hydroxychloroquine, so you weren't allowed to say anything positive about it. The study you're talking about out of New Jersey, it's an interesting study. It's observational. It's what you would call hypothesis generating. In other words, it should be confirmed if it's true with bigger studies that are actually randomized controlled, which they haven't done. They did make one very interesting observation, which is that maybe hydroxychloroquine was underdosed in heavy people. And so if you dose them higher, you might have a better chance of showing the results that, you know, that you'd like to show that the drug actually has benefit, which we really haven't done yet. But here's what you really should remember about HCQ. We don't know at this point, I would say, whether this drug works or not. What we know is that the medical establishment last year, once Donald Trump said he, you know, liked it, was on a jihad to destroy it. And the Lancet published a paper that it had to retract. That's how much it wanted to prove that hydroxychloroquine didn't work. And so this is of a piece with the vaccines. I mean, I will say, if Donald Trump were president right now and we were talking about the Trump vaccines, I can promise you the medical establishment would be looking much harder at what they should have been looking at for the last 6 months.
Oh, man, we've shut down previous vaccines with a much smaller reported harm rate. I mean, tiny fraction of what VAERS is showing now. So, yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Alex Berenson, I appreciate your coming on. Thank you.
Tucker, it's a pleasure.